Okay, so today we're going to add to ratios. We're in lesson 2. You're in book 2. And the topic is representing ratios with diagrams. So it says, let's use diagrams to represent ratios. So you're just listening and watching. Ratios can be represented using a diagram. The diagrams do not need to include realistic details. For example, a recipe for lemonade says, mix 2 scoops of lemonade powder with 6 cups of water. So now there would be a realistic image of what that sentence would look like. Well, in math class, we can draw something like what you see here. So you do not need to draw whatever they are saying. You can use circles and squares and easy shapes just to make our life a little bit easier. So it says this diagram shows that the ratio of cups of water to scoops of lemonade powder is 6:2. So notice how the cups of water, that's blue, there's 6. And then the lemonade is that orange color or that yellowish color, and that would represent the 2. So it says we can also see that for every scoop of lemonade powder, there are 3 cups of water. So if you were to group this like this, and then like this, you would see what the last sentence says. So now we're doing a collection of snap cubes, and you are on page 11. So remember, it says, let's remember what's a diagram. So you don't even need to really make these colorful. What they're trying to highlight to you is even if you wanted to represent that box as green, you could put a G in it, and that can represent a green. So it says page 11, here is a collection of snap cubes. Okay, so it says choose 2 of the colors in the image. So I chose the colors for you for this, and I chose pink and red. So under number 1 on page 11, you are writing what you see where it says write this. So I chose pink, and there are 3. I chose red, and there are 5. So now my diagram that I drew was the pink. I drew 3 triangles, and those 3 triangles represent those 3 snap cubes in the picture. And then the red, I used rectangles, and I made those to represent the red snap cubes that are in the picture. So you will write pink is 3, red is 5, and you will draw the diagram that I drew. Okay, and then we're continuing on. You're still on the same page. And we're on number 2 though. So write a sentence to describe a ratio shown in your diagram. So I just chose a sentence. For every 3 pink snap cubes, there are 5 red snap cubes. And again, you could write that many different ways. That is just what I chose based on the colors that I chose for us. So under number 2, you're writing write this, and you're writing the sentence in yellow. All right, so now we're moving to blue paint and art paste, and that is on page 12. So page 12 says, Elena mixed 2 cups of white paint with 6 tablespoons of blue. Here is a diagram representing it. So here again, white paint, they are having these 2 larger green squares. And then the blue paint, they are representing in smaller squares. So you can even just do it by size, and then they made their blue paint squares blue. So now we're going to kind of take the diagram, and I have it below, and we're going to decide which of these follow the situation correctly. So A says the ratio of cups of white paint to tablespoons of blue paint is 2:6. So notice how there are 2 here and there are 6 here. The wording they have first is white. White is 2. And then the blue is 6. So that is correct. 2:6, that's what we want. Okay, for every cup of white paint, there are 2 tablespoons of blue paint. And that is actually incorrect. Okay, letter C. There is 1 cup of white paint for every 3 tablespoons of blue. So let me change the color to show you what they mean. So they're basically cutting it up like this now, or they're grouping it, or they're dividing it, which is what ratios are. So if I group those, is that 1 cup to every 3 blues? And that is correct. So you should circle C. Letter D, there are 3 tablespoons of blue paint for every 1 cup of paint. And that is correct, right? Based on the purple that I just circled at the bottom. Now E says, for every tablespoon of blue, there are 3 cups of white. And that is not correct. F says, for every 6 tablespoons of blue, there are 2 cups of white. That is correct. That matches A. Now G says the ratio of tablespoons of blue paint to cups of white paint is 6:2. And that is correct. So remember, guys, that I taught you last class that if they have blue first, then blue's number needs to be first. If they have white second, white's number needs to be second within the ratio. Keep in mind, too, that the 2 to 6, that is the same as 2 to 6. Remember, we can write that interchangeably. All right, and then we're on number 2 now. So it says Jada mixed 8 cups of flour. So we have 8 cups of flour and 2 pints of water to make paste for an art project. Draw a diagram that represents the situation. So over here, this is what my little labeling of a key is. So my circles are going to represent flour and my hearts are going to represent water. So it says 8 cups of flour. So I need 8 circles. And then I have 2 pints of water, and those are my 2 hearts. So for number 2, letter A, draw my diagram of circles and hearts. All right, now I'm on letter B. Write at least 2 sentences describing the ratio of flour and water. So here I said, for every 4 cups of flour, there is 1 pint of water. And how I did that was I split it up into groups. So I grouped it like this. I'm sorry, that should have 1 more. I actually grouped it like this, where there was 4, and then there's 4. Okay, so 4 to 1, 4 to 1. So it says for every 4 cups of flour, there is 1 pint of water. For every 1 pint of water, there are 4 cups of flour. So that is true based on the diagram. So let me kind of regroup this for you so you're not confused. So the red is really the grouping that I did. Notice how there's 4 flours. Notice how there's 1 water. Notice how there's 4 flours. Notice how there's 1 water. Okay, so we're going to practice a lot of these in the practice. So please join the meet and begin your practice for today.